Alright, I have a problem. I want to rant about the crying child, but I don't know what to rant about. So let's just go over a few things. Number one, the crying child is absolutely one of my favorite characters in all of FNAF. Literally, he's amazing. He's just amazing. I love him so much. He deserved way better. Um, let's talk about some things about him. Um, I want to talk about ages. You know, because me personally, I like to think he's the youngest of the Afton kids, and therefore Elizabeth would be the middle child. But um, do the ages match up? Let's think about it. So, we know that the crying child died in 1983. As for Elizabeth, well, she died. She was killed by Circus Baby, who is an animatronic that was made to to collect remnant, which William could have only known about until after the MCI. Well, known enough about to make the quantum animatronics until after the MCI. We know the MCI happened in 1985, therefore, the earliest Elizabeth could have died is 1985. Let's assume she died in 1985, even though it would make more sense if she died in like 1986 to have time for William to build all of the animatronics, but let's just assume she died in 1985. So, the ages are a bit of a guessing game, honestly. Because, like, they could be, like, 2 years old or they could be 15. We have no idea. But judging by Elizabeth's voice, she sounds to be around, let's say, 7 years old. If she was 7 in 85, she would have been 5 in 83. I don't think it's too far fetched to think of the crying child as a 4-year-old or less, honestly. Now, if we forget about Elizabeth's voice and we go over to the Curse of Dreadbear DLC, um, that one is very much focused around FNAF 4, which is the game where we play as the crying child. And there is a cake with 7 candles, which means that the crying child could have been like, this is not like fully confirmed obviously, but like it might hint at the fact that maybe the crying child was 7 years old when he died back in 83. So I also don't think it's too far-fetched to think that Elizabeth was 8, for example, in 83, and 10 in 85 when she died. I don't think, because yeah, like, yeah, she sounds younger, but people can sound younger or older than they actually are. They could also be twins and have been both, um, either 5 or 7 or whatever in 83. Many people make them twins as well. Um, Sorry for the dog barking in the background. Shut up. um, so yes, well, the thing that would make the most sense is for Elizabeth to be younger. For example, her being 5 in 83, while the crying child is 7, and then 7 in 85 when she died, for example. But I do still prefer the idea of the crying child being the youngest. Um, with that out of the way, I'm pretty sure Charlotte Emily canonically died in 1983 in the books. Now, we can't say that she for sure died in 83 also in the games, considering that, they're not the same universe. But we could assume she did, I guess. I mean, it depends, because in the books she is 3 years old when she died. But, like, in the games she might have not been 8 years old. I mean, 3 years old, sorry, my brain is. So therefore, because, like, you can make the argument of, I mean, they made her die to tie the books into the games, and Scott released Pizzasim, then shouldn't she be three? But like, she died in different ways though. Like in Pizzasim, we see that she was, Jesus Christ, this dog. In Pizzasim, we see that she was locked out of a pizzeria and she died outside. Meanwhile, in the books, she died inside of her safe room. I'm pretty sure. Oh my. Dude, this dog. What does it want? If I have to close the windows because of this dog. Alright. So since she died in different ways, like, she could have also been different ages. Like, it's two different continuities. But by that logic, then would Scott have changed the year that she was born in, and therefore her being born like way earlier in the games than in the books, or in the year that she died in, so she could have like been born in the same year, 1980 would be, I guess, as in the books, and but then died later. And then if she did die in 1983, then there's a whole debate of who died before, the crying child or Charlotte. Yeah. And there's also the thing of what did the crying child see that made him so scared of the animatronics? Now here's the thing, and I think my theory is very friggin' good. Okay, let's go. So a lot of people think that he saw Elizabeth's death, but because of what I explained earlier, he couldn't have. So what could he have seen? Some people think that he might have seen the MCI kids being stuffed into the suits. That also couldn't have been because the MCI happened in 1985, unless there was another MCI before 1983 that we just don't know about. But I feel like that's a bit too much of a stretch. There's also some people that think he saw Charlotte's death, which I guess makes some sense, but I think my theory is way better. So, in the books, and yes, I know I just talked about how the books and the games are different continuities, but let me explain. In the books, we see William Afton or Dave Miller or whatever, wearing the Spring Bonnie suit, and we see that he has some scars that look like Springlock suit scars, meaning that he got Springlocked before but survived. He didn't survive the second time though. um so this canonically happened in the books. And things that canonically happen in the books don't necessarily have to happen in the games, obviously. But there's also some things that happened in both the books and the games. So I feel like it's not too far of a stretch to say that maybe William in the games also survived the Springlock failure. And what if that is what the crying child saw? It would make sense because he seemed to be scared of Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, who are the only Springlock suits we know of. So yeah. Then there's the whole debate of who does the crying child possess, if he even possesses anyone. I think the most popular theory is probably Golden Duo, aka the crying child and Cassidy both possess Golden Freddy. But here's the thing. people think that I'm a golden doer, by the way. I'm a golden doer. I love the idea uh of of the Crying Child and Cassidy both possessing Golden Freddy, especially with the Stitch Wraith in the Fuzzy Frights books, because I feel like the Stitch Wraith is a very good parallel to Golden Duo. Andrew being a parallel to Cassidy, and Jake being a parallel to the Crying Child. Um, but either way, the thing with Golden Duo though, and like this is the thing with every other theory aside from one or two, um, is that how would he get to Golden Freddy to possess him? Because Golden Freddy is not the same as Fredbear. I feel like I need to make that very clear. Golden Freddy and Fredbear are two different suits. Now here's the thing. A lot of people think that Fredbear and Spring Bonnie are the only Springlock suits ever created, but the phone calls, like the tapes, the Springlock training tapes from FNAF 3 actually talk about there being Springlock suits in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza as well. So maybe the Wizards are also Springlock suits. Probably, you know? And then the Springlock suits got discontinued. And the first like pizzeria without Springlock suits would have been the FNAF 2 one with the toys. So like I think personally like maybe Golden Freddy might have been like an early Freddy design, but then they changed him from yellow to brown so that he wouldn't look too similar to Fredbear. I feel like that's a pretty solid theory. The only thing is, why would there be also a Golden Freddy in FNAF 1? But, like, that's also a problem with the theory of him being Fredbear. Like, what? What? Why would there be two Fredbears? Because Golden Freddy and Withered Golden Freddy are clearly not the same thing. Now, the Wizards then become the FNAF 1 animatronics, right? The Wizards get like fixed and turned into the FNAF 1 animatronics. You know, they get some slight changes, like their head shapes are different, stuff like that. But they're they're still the same animatronics, just reworked. But why would they fix Golden Freddy if he was discontinued? Like, he wasn't going to be used. He was an early design. But also, why would they fix him if he was Fredbear? Neither of those cases make sense. Either way, moving on. There's also the theory of Fredbear and Golden Freddy being separate entities, as I said, and the Crying Child possessing Fredbear, which I guess makes more sense, but I've also seen some people making the Crying Child possess Funtime Freddy, which, I mean, there's no like evidence for it or anything like that, but I guess it's cool. I've also seen some people make the Crying Child possess Glamrock Freddy, which I think is a really cool concept, especially as somebody who thinks that the Crying Child and Gregory would be great friends. I don't know why, I just get that vibe. I really want them to be friends, even though there's no way it could happen. Unless Glam Victim. Yeah, I feel like Glam Victim is like really cool. I really like that theory, but I don't think there's much chance of it actually being canon. There's also some people that make him possess the Fredbear plush, which is interesting. I'm not sure how to feel about it. And there's not much more to talk about, is there? Well, I mean, there's also the whole debate of Mike Bro or Mike Victim. Well, and there's also Mike Fourth. These are the three theories. If you don't know these three theories, Mike Bro is the one that says that Michael is the Foxy Bro. You know, the dude with the foxy mask that scares the crying child. Mike Victim is the one that says that Michael is the crying child, and Mike Fourth is the one that says that Michael is neither the Foxy Bro nor the crying child and is um a fourth Afton kid. Yeah. I don't know. Um yeah. I think I've talked about everything I could really talk about. I could, just go on about how much I love the crying child and he did not deserve what happened to him or all that stuff. Oh, I just remembered something else. The crying child's name. Yeah. Let's talk about that. So, um back in like the early days of the fandom, many people for some reason called him Chris. I don't know where this came from. I have no idea where this came from of calling him Chris. If anybody knows, please tell me. Like, I'm genuinely curious. There's also, the people that call him just the crying child or the bite victim, or for short, CC or BB. But there's many other names for him. For example, with the Professor Fights books came a new name for him. I'm pretty sure I don't know this because I haven't actually read the Professor Fights books, but um, in in the story, the real Jake, the father of Jake, is called Evan, and he has a brother named Michael. So from there, people said, "Oh, this character has a brother who has the same name as this other character." So therefore, since the brother of the dude that has the same name as the brother of the other character, since that character has no name, then they must have the same name, which honestly that logic is a little bit stupid, especially with how many characters there are with the same names in FNAF. I mean, there's like 50 Jeremys. I don't know how many Fritzes there are. There's, aside from Michael Afton, there's also another Michael Brooks. But like, okay. I mean, out of all of the names that there are, aside from just Crying Child, Evan is probably the most canon one there is. Jesus Christ, can you not be so loud? But there's many other names that people have called him. Another one that's pretty popular is Norman. I don't know why, man. Just because. I also seen a lot of people call him names that start with C, because crying child, which is, yeah, I understand that, like Connor or Chuck. I mean, Chuck is probably like, aside from it starting with C, there's also another story from Faster Fact. I'm pretty sure it's called Step Closer, where there's these two characters that are called Pete and Chuck, and they're brothers, and their relationship parallels a lot the relationship between Michael and the crying child back in 1983 when Michael would bully him. Um, so I guess that also makes that parallel is actually way more it makes way more sense than the Evan one, because like there's no way that the Evan from the real Jake is the crying child, because the crying child is dead. He's friggin' dead. So like, how did he have a child then? I've seen somebody, like a few people, make Evan not the crying child, but another Afton kid. It's like that's a lot. So like, with the canon Afton kids would be Mike, Elizabeth, and the crying child, right? But like then we get stuff like Terrence, Evan, Abby from the movie, and then you can just keep adding. Some people think Cassidy is an Afton, maybe the pigtail girl. Just keep adding. Keep adding Aftons. They're gonna have 50 kids by the end of this. Yeah, how about making Vanessa an Afton kid, even though she's like 24 years old and she could not have been born in the 80s? No, like seriously, I've seen some people do that. Either way, um keeping on with the let's keep talking about the discussion of the crying child's name. I've also seen a couple people call him Garrett, which like this is just giving him names that people might think might fit. Uh, I've seen somebody call him Nick, and they had a very interesting explanation for why they called him that, and it's because of the joy of creation. The character that you play as in the first memory, who's in the crib, his name is Nick, and so that's why they called him that, and I think that's very interesting. I think that's very cool. Um, yeah, and there's many more names. But yeah, no, I think now I've talked about everything I wanted to talk about. I love the crying child. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say. I love him.